y'all just let me know if that volume is anything weird. Okay, so as most of you know, I've been working on this AIM project. If you don't know what AIM is, it basically stands for America Online Instant Messenger. I guess that would be AOL IM, but anyway. Essentially, it's this like chat thing back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, where when you had America Online, you could subscribe to this thing called AIM. And what it was is just chat rooms, really. It was like one of the first popular or widely known chat rooms in existence. So I wanted to remake that. They decommissioned it, I think in 2018 or 2019. Meaning they no longer distribute it. You can't buy it. You can't download it. You can't do anything with it. And all the chat rooms were decommissioned. However, a lot of ambitious programmers sought to bring it back alive. And I thought it was a good opportunity to not only make it for nostalgic reasons, but because I think it would be a really good learning opportunity for me to learn with, things with sockets and just overall Python programming. Huge shout out before I get started to Centdex. If you don't know who that is, he basically walked me through how to set up all the sockets and servers and clients and everything. The rest is all just sort of Kinter or Kinter, and sort of playing around with that. And that idea actually came from Centdex in the very beginning anyway. If you watch his videos, I'll link them below. He actually mentions building out like a physical chat room where you can log in and all this stuff. So that's what I've done here. So without further ado, let's get started. You're going to need a few things before you get going. So I'm just going to run down the list. You have to pip install most of these. Again, I will link all of these dependencies down below if you don't have them already. So from the top, we have Kinter. So import Kinter as TK. The as TK part is just to make it shorter. Then we have TTK, and then all. That was later in the program when I found out that I needed slightly more dependencies from Kinter, and color chooser as well from Kinter. PIL is a pillows dependency. That is for picture imports, and you'll see that I use that quite a lot with buttons later in the program. We need socket, we need select, we need Erno. Erno is, or socket is for socketing. Select, I can't remember what that is for. I think Centdex explains that one. Erno is for errors. Threading is pretty neat. A friend of mine I was like, I need to run two things in conjunction with each other, and I don't know how. And he's like, look, check out threading. It's not the most optimal thing to do, and even running my program, you can sort of feel your GPU stress a little bit, but it does work, and it's very fast, and it's slick as all hell. Import time, that's for sleep. I don't think I have any, I think I'm sleeping in like two spots because of the threading. And it's because I'm running a while loop in a while loop, and that can get kind of crazy. So I think I have like a 1 second lag time in there. You'll see. Play sound is we're not gonna use play sound, but I will link it in my GitHub. So if you're watching this and you want to download the finished code from my GitHub, then check it out and you can play around with the sounds. The reason I'm not going to play the sounds in the stream or the YouTube video is because the last time I did, it flagged it for copyright, which is really silly because I didn't actually get the sounds from AOL. They're actually from an old video, which was a remake of Animator versus Animation. If you can remember that, I just took the little snippet from that, which I know they didn't copyright. So, oh well, it doesn't matter. JSON is where we're going to store our usernames and passwords. In hashlib, we're going to hash the passwords, when we store them, so that way they can't be easily stolen. So the first thing we're going to need, let me turn the music down a little bit. So the first thing we're going to need is an IP choice and a port choice. So before I actually had this as a static IP, but I decided to add sort of a submenu where you can add in your own server and port numbers for later down the road. I should mention too, this is not a finished product. This is very much so beta. It's like, it's not finished. It is missing a lot of things that I would like to have in it. However, it is really fun to play around with. So that's something to look forward to. And it does work. So I just wanted to share this with you because this is going to be like a series, right? I'm going to update this on YouTube later with more changes and things that I've added to it. So, you know, sit back and code along if you want to code along or just watch. That is cool with me too. So we're going to set a few variables here in the beginning that we can use later in the program. We have window height and window width. So 250, 400 for the height, 250 for the width. And then we're going to do win2 height. And that's going to be a slightly different box. Win2 width. That's 500. Colors. I'm just going to copy and paste these because they're a pain in the butt to write out. But I just have a gray, which is like an ugly AOL 1990s gray. A dark gray, which I don't think is actually dark gray. I don't think I actually use dark gray at all. I plan on using it, but it's there if I need it. And then this blue for links. You'll see that in a minute. So that's sort of everything we need for the program. The rest is all just like Kinter and basic programming. So we're going to start with Kinter and set our root equal to tk.tk. We're going to title the root. So we're going to say root.title is AOL sign-on. You can name that whatever you'd like. I just thought AOL sign-on was short and sweet. And then we're going to set root to resizable false. So we're going to say width equals false and height equals false. And the reason for this is I'm not using grid, right? A lot of you may know that if you've seen any of my previous videos, I use pack and place. I use place pretty much 90% of the time, and the rest I pack. I don't use grid because it's very cumbersome. I think place is a lot better, in my opinion. Depending on how you fill out your GUIs, which I do with canvas and roots, or canvas and frames rather, place is a lot more flexible, and you can get really like specific designs, in my opinion. I'm not an expert with grid, so I don't know, but that's why I do it. So we don't want it resizable because when you place it like that and you resize, it looks really funky. So I just like to set it static. Then we are going to start filling out our main GUI. We need a main loop. Excuse me, root.mainLoop, just like that. Now, if you don't know how Kinter works, basically you have root.tk and root.mainLoop. Anything in between counts as a loop, your GUI loop, right? So if I put something in here, that's in the GUI. If I put something out here, not necessarily in the GUI. If it's a variable, I can use it in the GUI. But if it's like a canvas, it won't capture that. So that's important to know when we program, because in the final product, you would want this main loop like way down here, like on line 200, right? So we'll leave it down there for now. It's gonna end up there anyway, I promise. Oh, that's right, I forgot. So we're working off Python file called main.py. You can name it whatever you'd like, but it is important to have a server.py, and this is basically one-for-one on Sendex. And that's actually his notes right there. I didn't change this at all because it's a good starter server. Of course, I will be changing it later down the road to allow for multiple clients and things like that. But right now, this just opens up a server locally, and you can connect to it. You can put it as your IP address and connect to it within your network, or you can set it to a loopback address like it is here. and basically it just captures the clients, and from there it connects to the server, and then you can talk to the server. It's pretty cool. So that'll be on my GitHub. You can just take that, download it, throw it in this, call it good. Same thing with sounds and pics. These are already, I've already snapped them and they're in the perfect size. That's me. So, you know, you can just take these. I'm not going to mess around with importing those and all that. So as long as you have those in the correct files, pics and sounds, we can just call them. So we're going to set image to image.open, pics, main screen, pic.png. So that's this guy here. Okay, so that sets our image. Below this, before we do that, we're gonna create a canvas. So we're gonna say canvas equals tk.canvas, and then we're gonna throw that in the root. We're gonna say height is equal to win height, not win2 height. The width is equal to, if you could guess, win width. And BG, which is the background, we're gonna make gray. Canvas.pack. Pretty much always pack my canvases because it doesn't really matter. It straightens it out for you. Placing is for pretty much anything that I want in a particular spot. And then we're going to create a canvas 2. Again, the canvas name is totally up to you. This is just what I chose to do at the time. Height equals win height. And we're going to add 200 to this. We are also going to take width and win width. We're going to add 200 to that, and then add a BG of gray, or blue. Actually, I don't think this... I don't think that exists, but it looks like I forgot to take it out. We're going to put it in anyway and see what happens. I could just be... This is also a good way for me to clean up my code, because I haven't looked at it thoroughly since I started, and that was like over a month ago. Actually, this project's been going on for like 4 months. So I might find some things that I'm like, why did I do that? I don't need that. So we're gonna set canvas 2 to these rel_x. I'm gonna be pasting a lot of these rel_x, rel_y, rel_height, rel_width, and so if you're coding along, I'll just say them out loud. Rel_x is 0.05, rel_y is 0.005, rel_height 0.5, rel_width 0.9. But between that, we're gonna, we actually don't need it between at all. Maybe we do. So above here, we're gonna say photo equals image tk dot photo image, and then we're gonna throw our image in there. Item 4. The reason I'm using item 4 so quick and not just like item 1 is because I have other items later in the program that I didn't want to overwrite the variable. So we'll say canvas 2 dot create image, and then we're gonna set their dimensions just like that, 120 by 90, image equals photo. Okay, that looks good. Let's see what we've got so far. That's why I had it in there. Okay, so we're just gonna move that in between there so it calls the actual thing. Invalid syntax. Cool. So that's what we've got so far. So that's pretty good. So basically it just sets this 200 by, the adding 200 by 200 puts these borders in for us. And we just basically put the photo in the box. So there you go. and it's not resizable, which looks great. All right, moving on. So we want sign on pic. Pic is equal to another photo image. So we've got file equals, and then we're gonna say pics sign on button dot png. So if we take a look at that sign on button, we're just gonna put that in the bottom right. So we can say sign on button is equal to tk.button. And then we're going to stick that in canvas. And the image is equal to sign on pic, the variable we set over here. Now we can say sign on button dot bind. If you don't know what dot bind is, essentially you can just bind it to a click or a key. In this case, we are going to, I like binding even though you don't need to. So the button will, if you click the button, it will run a function if you set it as command equals. But I like binding because it just makes more sense in my head. And we're going to bind it to a variable called open server, which we'll make in just a moment. And then we can say sign on button dot place. And again, these were meticulous, these dimensions here. So like, look at this, 0.648, 0.85, 0.12, 0.23. This is what I'm talking about by place versus grid. If you were using grid, you could sort of just shove it in the bottom right corner and you'd know where that is. But place makes me able to, like 0.648 made it just like 1 pixel to the right, you know what I'm saying? So basically it's just more flexibility for me. So we're going to create up here, open server. How do I spell that? Open server. And we're going to pass in event. There we go. And we're just going to pass for now. So our program's nice and happy. So there you go. Look at that. So when we click it, nothing happens. It runs open server, which is currently set to pass. So that's good. Next thing we're going to do is the help pic. So we'll call that help pic equals photo image. And then we're going to give that a file. Pics help.png. Same exact thing that we just did. So actually I'm going to copy this. And then I'm just going to rename it help button. Just like that. It's going to call user help, which is another function that we will create. And the picture is help pic instead. And the dimensions are different because it's slightly more to the left. So if you notice, the only thing that changes is relative x. Because y is up and down, height and width are, they're a little different because of the size of the picture. But we're going to copy this user help, just like we did with open server. Let me see where I placed it on my original program. We've got open server. I believe it's above, but I'm just double checking. User help. Oh yeah, it's the first thing. So it's going to be above. So we're going to say define user help, pass in the event, and pass. Actually, yeah, okay. I see what I did. Okay, so user help was the only function that I had doing nothing, and I don't have a help button built in yet. So I just assigned it to user help, which does nothing currently. So we will be using that throughout if there's a button that I have yet to program something that it does, I will be using user help. I think it only shows up a couple times, but that's why. So now when you run this, you click it, nothing happens. That's expected for me. So don't worry about that. So let's see, moving on to, we want an entry for the username. So I want username, password, and then the titles for those. So let's do that. So say username entry equal to tk.entry. Whoops. And we'll paste that to the canvas with a background of what? Okay, then we have username entry dot, we're going to bind it to return, and return is just capital R, return, and then the function open server. Okay, this basically ensures that if you press sign on or enter on the username field, it will log you in, which is I feel like that's expected behavior. So username entry dot place, and these are the dimensions. Rel x is 0.095, rel y 0.6, rel height 0.05, and rel width 0.8. Okay. Time for the password entry. Password entry is equal to tk.entry canvas. And BG white. I think it's defaulted to white. I'm not really sure why I do that to myself. Maybe just so I can change it later, but I don't know. So we're gonna say password entry dot bind, and again we're gonna bind that to the enter key or return key, capital R, and run the function. If you could guess it, open server, because that's always good. This is cool. Password dot, or password entry, excuse me, dot config, and then we can do show star. What this does, shows the stars instead of the password. So when you're typing it in, you know how like when you type in a password, it shows up as little dots? It does that. So it's pretty cool. We want the username to be readable, but we don't necessarily want the password to be readable, right? So let's place that in. And it's pretty much the same thing, except pushed down a little bit. So relative y goes from 0.6 to 0.74. And when you increase y, it goes down. When you decrease, it goes up, just so you know. So let's take a look at that. So we've got my username and then password. See how that looks like stars? So that's pretty cool. So far, so good. So when we hit sign on, nothing happens. We don't have any sort of authentication at this point, so no worries. We're going to make a quick username label. Username label is equal to tk.label. And then we're going to put that in canvas. The text is going to say screen name, just like that. It's squished and capitalized like that because that is how the original was, which I thought was kind of interesting. We're going to set the font to Helvetica, size 10, and bold. And then we're going to say background is equal to gray, and foreground is equal to, I have it hard set for some reason. Oh, it's a blue. It's like a particular type of blue. So that's pound 2A, 2E, 7A. And then we're gonna place it at relative x 0.085, relative y 0.54. There you go. So it shows up like that. It's like a weird dark blue, so I had to color match it, and that's just what the color match ended up being. So I don't think it's in any other thing, which is why I hard coded it there and not at the top, because I only needed it once. Let's do the same thing for password, except we are going to change it to password. It's going to be a little less height, and the foreground is going to be black. And we're going to paste it in the same or slightly different dimensions here, because of the size of the difference between password and whatever. So there's password. So you have screen name and password. And this is pretty cool. I want to sign up link. Maybe we won't do the sign up link today. Yeah, I'm going to skip the sign up link. Or should I not? What are we running at for time here? 26 minutes. All right, let's do it. Because I think if I don't do it, it's gonna mess me up. I'm just gonna paste it in though, so sorry. So what this is a link that is light blue, very small, and it's below the sign on button that you can click. It's binded to a button. I didn't know this before this, but you can bind labels, which is really cool. So when you click on it, it launches a new GUI called User Create. So we're going to take User Create and define that function up here. And pass an event. And pass for now. Let's actually do that. Yeah, this is going to be a little complicated, so I'm sorry. But essentially, you click create an account and a new box will pop up allowing you to sign in. And then what that does is it creates the user into the .json file. So let's do that. Actually, yeah, let's do that first. Yeah, that makes more sense. So what we're going to start off with is in user create, we're going to create a user GUI. We're going to do that by using top level. Top level is a sort of Kinter's way of saying new GUI on top of the GUI. It's a GUI inside a GUI, but it's not like a new page in your GUI. It's a whole new box, right? So on this same level, let's see, we want to create a user. So we're going to say define create user. And we're going to pass an event. And this is where things get a little tricky. So we're going to set UN equal to pick username dot get and ppw pick password dot get. The dot get is for entries. So if you look, gosh, this is complicated. Okay, so under user user create, so under the same as create user rather. So we're, wait, hold on. Oh, create user. Here we go. Okay. So under the same definition as create user, we are going to write a crap ton of things. First thing we're going to do is set a username. Equal to string var. And then we're going to say pick username is equal to tk.entry. Create user GUI is our top level name. Just wondering why that wasn't lining up. CRT user GUI. There we go. And then we're going to say text variable is equal to username, and the BG is white. Pick username dot bind. We're going to be binding it to the return key. And we're going to run create user. When that's clicked, pick username dot place. We'll place it right there. 0.095 for rel x, 0.3 for rel y, 0.08 for rel height, and 0.8 for rel width. Then we're going to say pick password 1, because we want to authenticate with both. tk.entry, create user GUI, BG equals white as a variable. Pick password 1 dot bind that to the return key. We're going to have conditional statements in create user that basically say if username and password are filled out, then continue. If not, then error. So we can bind all of these to create user, because it will, when it looks at the entries, if they're not at a certain conditional statement, then it will just say, no, can't do that. So that's why we're doing it this way. Pick username or pick password.1 or pick password1.config. And then we're going to show that for passwords, and we're going to place it. So we're going to do this again. So we're going to paste the exact same thing here, except of course we're going to name it 2. And the place is going to be slightly different. It's going to be 0.95, 0.6, 0.8, 0.8, 0.08, 0.8. And that will just shove it down a little bit. So you'll see in a second. We're almost there. We'll run it in a sec. Submit button is equal to tk.button. Create user GUI. Text is equal to sign on, or I'm sorry, submit. Submit button dot bind, and this is going to be button 1, which is left click, by the way. And then we're going to say that is create user. Yep. And submit button dot place. Relative 0.4, relative y 8, 0.8, relative height 0.08, and then 0.2. Let's take a look at that. Let's see if we broke it. Create an account. Boom. Looks like I screwed up the text on the button. Okay. No errors, look at that. So yeah, you hit create an account, you put username here, Terranova, password, and then you got the password. Make sure that's accurate, hit submit. Nothing happens because password's not defined. So almost done with that. Let's make a label for it so it looks nice and pretty. Sign up label is equal to tk.label in the create user GUI. Text is equal to sign up. I'm going to copy the font. I hate writing these out because they're kind of complicated. So font wrapped up in name of the font, size, and then if you want italicized or bold or whatever. And then background is gray, foreground's black. There you go. So let's do sign up label dot place. That's going to be relative x 0.4, rel y 0.8. Okay, username label 2 is equal to tk.label. Create user GUI. Text is equal to create a screen name as variable. And yet again, we are going to copy in some font here. So I've got Helvetica 10, bold, background's gray, foreground is whatever this color is. And if you couldn't guess, we are going to place that 0.9, 0.22. Password label 2 is equal to tk.label. Create user GUI. Create a password. That is Helvetica 10, bold, gray, black. And then we can place that in. That's going to be rel x 0.09, rel y 0.42. Now let's take a look at that before we get too far and I break everything. There you go. Password label is not showing up, which is a little weird. What did I do there? Oh, I didn't. Did I not do to.place? There you go. So create a screen name, create a password. Submit does nothing. I just realized I didn't need this main loop at all. Weird. Okay, let's go fix a bunch of things. I am not going to explain this authentication because it is kind of broken. But essentially, what we do is we set the password and then we hash it. So we get the password here. Okay, so we get the username, we get the password and assign them to these variables. We hash the password, and then we hash the second password, both to SHA-1. And then we basically say if it doesn't equal, if password 1, password 2 don't equal each other, do nothing. You could throw in an error there or, you know, put a label in. Haven't gotten that far yet for myself. And then we log in. So if it is equal to each other, if it basically it's saying if it already exists, then the account already exists, so you can't make it. Otherwise, if it exists, it's probably the incorrect password, right? Then we have account created if it's else, which is essentially if it is unique and the passwords match, then create the user. And then we write users, and that'll create a .json right here. Okay, so it read users and then write users. Again, this will be available on my GitHub, but this authentication is half from Stack Overflow and half me just fiddling around with it for hours. So let's see if that creates it or if we have to do something. So we'll do Terra Nova and then pass. Okay. Hello, Unbandit 2006. Welcome. Yeah, so this get, where is this? Pick password. Did Oh, I just wrote it wrong. So this is pick password 1.get. So let's do Terra Nova, pass. There you go. So when I hit enter, it says account created. You may now close this window, Terra Nova. And if I hit X and we look over here, we have a .json with our username and our hashed password. So there you go. Now, if I try to create that again, it says account already exists for screen name Terra Nova. So it just essentially it just checks the JSON and says, hey, does this exist? If it does, can't create it. If it doesn't and it's unique, then welcome. Now that we have a user, we can actually log in to the server. So let's do that. I have the server open in a idle over here. So let's run the server. So it says listening for connections. Okay. Now, what we want to do is open the server. So for the sake of this video not being 1.5 million hours long, I'm just going to paste in the open server function below the main loop of this guy here. Oh, there it is. So let's yoink. So we've got open server. Where are you? Right here. So you can also paste this in and sort of fiddle around with it. But essentially, that should connect our client. So Terra Nova, pass. There you go. So this is talking to the server. We can confirm that over here. So the server receives it from the user. So it's stored locally in a .json and then hashed, at least on the password side. So there you go. So let's close out of this. We'll leave the server open. And the last thing we're going to do is we are going to create a option that makes the server settings flexible. So let's create settings. So we're going to define a function called settings, and we're going to put it right under this user help here. And it sets the IP choice and port choice to global because it will change it to whatever your entry is in the settings menu. But we need a button for that. So let's go all the way to the bottom. And we're going to add settings pick. So basically what this does is it assigns the button to the setup pick, and then it uses settings as its function for the IP choice. So let's take a look at that. So here's the settings button. And then this gives you a nice little, where do you want the server to be? Where do you want the port to be? And if you want it like loop back, you can hit save. And that will save it for you. So we run this and I sign in. We are signed in. Now, if the server moves, because this is currently set to loop back, right? If I'm hosting the server on 10.0.10.1, right? Thank you, man. Then we can go into settings and just change that, right? So just as an example, because I'm not going to change the server, but if we exit out and I say, okay, the server is actually at 10.0.10.1 and hit save, then I can connect to the server wherever the server may be. Again, the sounds are awesome. So if you guys want to grab this from my GitHub and play around with the sounds when you chat, that works too. I also have, so you can run this client on 2 machines and connect to an internal server, and that will work just fine. Or you can sort of strip down to just the bare client in the command prompt and sort of chat back and forth. So obviously this is not finished by any means. It needs a lot of work. However, it does connect to a server and you can chat. So I will be working on this a little bit more as time goes along. But if you're interested in learning more, feel free to join our Discord channel. I will post it down below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, I'll post it in chat right now. But I will post all my progress to this and as I go along. So even if it's just adding one little thing, I'll post the progress on there so you can sort of follow along with this project. And if anyone wants to sort of collaborate with me, definitely feel free to collaborate. I mean, I could use the help. So, thank you so much for watching. And if you guys, Mr. Spar, if you guys, have any sort of suggestions, feel free to put them down below. On Twitch, I have a suggestion box. So if there's something that you see that maybe I could be doing a little bit better, or have an idea for me, throw it that way and I will read it. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Mr. Spar, good timing. I'm actually just wrapping up now, but I want to try to keep my YouTube videos like under an hour if possible. So, all right, guys, peace out. I'll be live tomorrow, Sunday, maybe. We'll see. But peace.